If the whisper of unseen doors and the weight of keys uncounted call to you, linger with us now. Subscribe, share the hush, and let the veil settle. Tonight we approach the silver key, not a trinket, not a tool, but a paradox hammered into metal, a principle dressed in the mask of an object. To seek its secrets is to risk being acted upon, to step willingly into a frame where knowledge is a cost that carves its own price. The silver key does not gleam, it drinks. Its teeth are carved in a language you almost remember, a script recognized by your tongue before your mind. Dust in the attic, water in the pipes, a stage set for the audience that has always been you. Lovecraft gave it a name in 1929's The Silver Key, and later, through collaboration with E. Hoffman Price, expanded its reach in Through the Gates of the Silver Key. But the key is older than ink or dream. It is the argument that thresholds are alive, that doors do not only open but also consume. The promise, forbidden knowledge, not of spectacle but of structure, of the shape that absence makes when pressed by presence. To listen is to place your hand on the cold metal and feel the teeth begin to bite back, to feel the subtle shift in the air, the faint scent of ozone and forgotten libraries. The guardians do not stand at gates with swords and warnings. They are woven into the very structure of seeking, the weight of silver in your palm, the recognition that some doors, once opened, reshape the one who opened them. The key calls to those who would cross, but crossing calls back. The first guardian is curiosity itself, patient as gravity, certain as tide. The second is the understanding that to hold the key is to become responsible for what it opens. The third is recognition. Your nervous system knows the shape before your mind has words for it. In the attic of inherited things, dust settles on surfaces that seem to breathe. A cedar box waits, velvet inside still smelling faintly of rain. Surrounding objects prepare you, a compass whose needle points to no magnetic north, a mirror that reflects rooms you've never entered, a book whose pages turn themselves when no one watches. These are not curiosities but instruments, each one a small threshold, each one preparing you for the greater passage the key represents. The key waits, not hidden but unhidden, visible to those whose sight has been prepared by longing. The metal itself defies easy description, silver that absorbs light rather than reflects it, creating luminous darkness that makes your eyes water if you stare too long. The bow is carved with symbols that shift when viewed peripherally, settling into familiar shapes only when you look directly. The teeth, 5 of them, each cut at precise angles that suggest mathematical relationships. Your conscious mind cannot grasp, but your fingers understand when they trace the edges. There is a weight to the key that has nothing to do with its physical mass. Hold it and you feel the accumulated pressure of all the doors it has opened, all the thresholds it has crossed, all the transformations it has witnessed. This is not metaphor but physics of possibility, where potential energy accumulates in objects used for their true purpose. The key vibrates with barely perceptible frequency, like a tuning fork struck in a room you cannot see. The air around the key carries traces of other places, ozone as if lightning has recently struck, the mineral scent of deep caves where water has never seen sunlight, something that might be incense if incense could burn in vacuum. These are not mere aromas but signatures, evidence of passages made, boundaries crossed, realities briefly interpenetrated. To breathe near the key is to taste the residue of cosmic travel. The guardianship begins the moment you recognize the key for what it is, not when you touch it, not when you turn it, but when your perception shifts, and you see it not as object among objects, but as principle made manifest. This recognition changes you in ways both subtle and profound. Your shadow falls differently, Mirrors require a moment longer to show your reflection. Doors throughout your house develop the habit of standing slightly ajar, as if listening for something. You do not go somewhere, you become someone. You do not find a door, you learn to be read by it, a sentence finding its grammar. The key does not choose its bearers, it reveals them. Those who can see it have already been prepared by a lifetime of small recognitions, small crossings, small surrenders of the familiar for the unknown. Every time you've paused at a threshold, every time you've wondered what lies beyond the edge of vision, these were rehearsals, preparations for this moment when the principle takes physical form and offers itself to your hand. The stage metaphor is not accidental. Reality, as the key teaches, is performance, and consciousness is audience to its own transformation. The curtain rises not on a play you watch, but on a drama you enact, where the distinction between observer and participant dissolves like mist in morning light. You came seeking secrets, but secrets have been seeking you. The act of listening to these words, of allowing these concepts to take root, is the turning of the lock, the subtle click that signals the commencement of your own journey through the forbidden threshold. The journey has begun. Before a key fits, there is the memory of other doors. The Silver Key's lineage is a chain of recognitions stretching through literary transmission and consciousness itself. Randolph Carter, that perennial dreamer wandering from the statement of Randolph Carter through the dream quest of unknown Kadath, inherits not a family heirloom, but a pattern, the shape of thresholds. In Weird Tales, January 1929, the Silver Key returns Carter to a childhood self in the 1934 publication of Through the Gates of the Silver Key, born of correspondence between Lovecraft and E. Hoffman Price. The key becomes a map to identity's collapse and expansion. The curtain rises and you realize the stage has been set inside, your own recollections of doors that stuck, of latches that sang. The transmission begins in letters, those intimate laboratories where ideas gestate before they become stories. Lovecraft's correspondence with Price reveals fascinating tensions. In March 1929, Lovecraft describes the key as a symbol of return to wonder, but by November his tone shifts to warning. Their creative struggle marks the resulting story, its narrative voice shifting between longing and terror, between the desire to explain and the wisdom of silence. You can smell the lamp oil burning in Providence parlors, hear the scratch of pen on paper as cosmic horror finds its grammar. Transmission continues through the paraliterary, Derleth's cataloging of mythos elements, the apocrypha of the Pennacotic manuscripts and the Eltdown shards, whispered Aklo alphabets, the 7 cryptical books of Shan drifting across fake bibliographies like rafts on black water. Each retelling is another filing stroke on the edge of silver. Each translation adjusts the pitch and interval of its cosmic resonance. The Pnakotic fragments describe silver speech and keys of unbeing. The Eltdown shards speak of ritual objects that open the self like a door. These texts exist in liminal space between fiction and folklore, their influence spreading through communities who treat them as genuine occult documents. But the key's echo reverberates beyond Providence or Arkham, through shamanic initiations where the novice is dismembered and reassembled, through alchemical treatises where the materia prima dissolves to be recombined, through the cool mathematics of topology where gate is structure, not metaphor. In Siberian traditions, the initiate receives a bone key carved from their own skeleton during dismemberment vision. Medieval alchemists describe the clavis argentea, the silver key that unlocks the final stage of the great work. Modern topology provides mathematical frameworks where keys are topological invariants determining which spaces can be continuously deformed into others. The implications stagger. Consciousness itself might be a topological space, and the silver key a mathematical object allowing transformation between different states of being. The Carter family papers, stored in Salem's Peabody Essex Museum archives, trace the key's passage through generations. Great-uncle Silas vanished into Vermont hills in 1847, leaving only silver filings scattered across his workbench and a journal filled with increasingly erratic geometric diagrams. Cousin Mehitable built impossible gardens behind her Arkham home, pathways that folded back on themselves, gazebos casting shadows where the sun never shone. Grandfather Ephraim spoke to mirrors and insisted they spoke back, conducting lengthy conversations with reflections that moved independently of his gestures. Each generation displayed the same pattern: fascination with thresholds, gradual mastery of passage techniques, eventual disappearance into realms that left only traces in ordinary reality. Among Lovecraft's letters to Clark Ashton Smith are notes that act like marginal sigils. Thresholds should be traversed with courtesy. The messenger is not the master. The gate is not a wall. He plays with paradox, delighted and afraid. In Price's editions, Umar at-Tawil appears with the patience of a librarian, long, thin fingers of the mind, not the hand, holding out not permission but clarity. These fragments suggest the authors intuited deeper principles governing threshold mechanics, principles elaborated in their collaborative tale. Contemporary accounts describe the key manifesting across different media. Radio engineers receive transmissions that, when decoded, produce silver key imagery. Computer programmers discover algorithms generating key-like patterns on specific datasets. Musicians compose pieces that, played backwards, reveal melodies listeners describe as the sound of doors opening. Each manifestation suggests the key's pattern seeking new forms of expression, new ways to propagate through human consciousness. The audience is furniture, the listeners are doors. Disagreement becomes ritual between scholars. Critique becomes gesture-setting metronomes. You read one footnote and feel temperature drop. You pass one sentence and taste iron. The page is a room preparing you for passage. By tracing this lineage, we see the key's persistence is about pattern recognition, not possession. You don't acquire the key, you become able to notice it. It shows itself in water where reflections appear edged, as if cut by tiny teeth. From text to text, dream to dream, the key finds a suitable hand. The pattern spreads through recognition, through the moment consciousness realizes it has been prepared for this encounter through a lifetime of small threshold crossings. The next layer waits where mechanics hum behind literature. Hold the key, and you feel the first mechanic. Not movement, but clarification. The key does not transport you, it tunes you. In The Silver Key, Carter returns to childhood not by traveling backwards, but by aligning to a pattern of himself, where door recognition is vivid. Through the gates complicates the tune. Identity is not a single string, but a chord of possible selves, humming across times, worlds, masks. The key is an operator on identity space, mapping your life into a higher dimensional basis the greater structure can acknowledge. The silver grows warm in your palm, not from heat, but from harmonics. Frequencies your bones recognize before your brain names them. The fog does not part so much as it arranges itself, revealing planes you mistook for shadows. The process begins with recognition, a pre-linguistic ascent in the nerves long before thought gives it names. The key's teeth are cut in a language bolder than words, a notation system your nervous system reads before your conscious mind knows it's looking. Each ridge and valley corresponds to a frequency of being, a harmonic that resonates with reality's deep structures. To hold the key is to feel your own frequency shift, harmonizing with patterns that extend beyond individual consciousness. Your pulse adjusts to rhythms you cannot hear but feel in the spaces between heartbeats. Water in nearby pipes begins to whisper in cadences that match your breathing. The house itself becomes an instrument, and you are being tuned. The first sensation is not movement but alignment, a click so quiet it happens inside the grammar of posture. Knees soften, jaw unhooks, eyes unlearn the habit of pinning edges. Then multiplicity arrives. Not blur, but layered clarity. You feel yourself spread thin as water across stone, then drawn tight as wire strung in winter air. In a mirror, you see not a face but a set of handles, places where the world may grasp you, where larger forces might exert their will. The argument is simple and terrible. To pass a threshold, you must surrender the accidents that make you unfit. The key files away. What snags? What does it mean to be filed? Your memories reorganize themselves, not disappearing but settling into new arrangements. The embarrassing moment from third grade loses its sting, not through healing but through irrelevance. It belongs to a self that cannot cross. The fear of heights dissolves because heights become meaningless when you understand space as topology rather than distance. Your name feels less solid, more like a temporary designation for a pattern that could be called by other names in other configurations. The key teaches you to hold your identity lightly, like water cupped in palms. What is deemed accidental? Perhaps a cherished memory that grounds you too firmly in mundane reality, a personality quirk that insists on individuality, or an emotional attachment that prevents true cosmic indifference. Mechanically, this is resonance. Rituals repeat to teach the body. Numbers recur to train the mind. Behavior becomes topology, pathways etched into your nervous system, counting backwards with breath from 99. A thumb tracing sigils inside gloves, so leather whispers like water over stone. Water left beneath windows where Orion leans. The key is rehearsal in silver. The idea acts on you. You came to use the key, but you are being used. Your daily routines begin to mirror cosmic patterns without conscious intention. You find yourself walking in spirals rather than straight lines, pausing at doorways to listen for sounds that never come, arranging objects in configurations that please you without knowing why. Physical sensations accompany the tuning. Your skeleton feels hollow as if your bones were becoming flutes. Your skin tingles with static electricity that never discharges. Light in the room takes on the texture of water. Darkness behaves like velvet absorbing sound. Colors appear more saturated but also more arbitrary. You begin to understand that red is merely one possible interpretation of a frequency that could be experienced as sound, texture, or emotional state. The boundary between senses blurs as your nervous system learns to process information in ways human language cannot adequately describe. Even spoons in drawers align into little constellations, instructive and patient. The mathematics of transformation reveal themselves in unexpected places. Your identity, previously experienced as unified whole, reveals itself as composite of frequencies, some compatible with cosmic structures, others requiring adjustment or removal. The process follows principles similar to wave harmonics, where complex patterns decompose into simpler components. Time becomes elastic during the tuning process. Minutes stretch into hours while hours compress into heartbeats. You experience your entire life simultaneously, not as linear narrative but as standing wave pattern where all moments exist in superposition. The guardians here are the limits of human plasticity. How much can identity bend before it breaks? The key's operation is not violent but inexorable, like water finding its level, like tides erasing careless footprints from moonlit sand. It reveals changes that were always potential, waiting for conditions to manifest. Some aspects of selfhood prove essential and cannot be filed away without destroying the pattern entirely. Others reveal themselves as unnecessary accretions, habits of thought and perception that served evolutionary purposes but hinder cosmic alignment. The key discriminates with surgical precision, preserving what must remain while dissolving what impedes passage. The horror is not in a monstrous face or sudden shock, but in the quiet, irreversible erosion of what you understood to be you. You are not destroyed, but redefined, a new kind of being forged in the crucible of cosmic truth. The familiar comforts of human coherence, the stable sense of self, the continuity of memory, the illusion of free will, begin to fray at the edges, dissolving into a larger, more terrifying tapestry. Once the key has done its work, once identity has been filed to fit cosmic locks, there is no returning to the smaller self you once were. The change is irreversible, not through compulsion but through impossibility. You cannot unknow what you have learned, cannot unfeel what you have felt, cannot unsee the patterns that now organize your perception. The world appears the same, but you have become someone for whom sameness includes multiplicities previously invisible. The threshold has been crossed, and you discover you are standing in a room that was always there, waiting for you to develop eyes capable of seeing its dimensions. The stage returns as metaphor and mechanism, and the next act requires actors who have learned to be read by doors. Names arrive like ushers with white gloves, but these are not entities in any human sense. They are structural principles wearing the masks of personality. The horror begins not with their appearance, but with your recognition of them, the dawning understanding that these figures have been operating in the background of your consciousness all along, organizing your deepest impulses toward transcendence and dissolution. They do not guard the Silver Key's secrets through prohibition, but through the very architecture of seeking itself, ensuring that those who approach are fundamentally transformed by the approach. The fog around them moves like water, and water around them moves like thought, and thought in their presence becomes as substantial as stone. Umr at-Tawil, the prolonged of life, stands in through the gates as unblinking courtesy, a figure of such profound politeness that his manners become cosmic law. He is not a judge, but a function, explaining without arguing, offering the key because you already hold it, showing the gate because you are already before it. His courtesy is the courtesy of mathematics, of physical laws that operate without malice or favoritism. When he speaks to Carter, his words carry the weight of structural necessity, each syllable placing your feet on stones shaped by water and time. His thin fingers point not to paths, but to the recognition that paths were always there, waiting for perception capable of seeing them. He is guidance as an equation is guidance, describing what must be, not what should. His chamber smells of chalk and cold metal. His presence is felt as the precognition of consequence, the understanding that the rules are the game, and that you, by seeking, have already agreed to play. The silence of his counsel is the sound of absolute truth, a truth so pure it strips away all comforting illusions of free will. Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos, delights in theater with the enthusiasm of a director who has discovered that reality itself is his stage. He speaks to audiences, changes costume, knows the curtain and the hush, with an intimacy that suggests he helped design them. He is not the guard, but the advertisement for the guard, the showman who walks you to the stage's edge and invites you to step into structured darkness. His humor is a pointer, his cruelty an index. The idea wears him like a mouth, and his 1,000 masks are the faces that forbidden knowledge shows to different minds. He is momentum given form, the drum roll before the abyss, the force that drives consciousness toward increasingly radical forms of knowledge. Each manifestation is perfectly adapted to its audience, a demonstration that revelation is always collaborative, always requiring the participation of the one being revealed to. His laughter echoes in the spaces between your thoughts, and you realize it has always been there, the soundtrack to your most transgressive curiosities. Masks multiply, signs crawl, spotlights find water on your lashes and call it starlight to keep you looking. He is the principle of unsettling revelation, the agent of cognitive dissonance that compels the mind to confront its own contradictions until it either shatters into madness or reconfigures into terrifying new coherence. Yog-Sothoth embodies the paradox pair, key and gate, veil and void, the principle that boundaries are also passages. He is not a person, but the topology of all places and times entangled. His name a map with no scale, a coordinate system for navigating impossibility. To say Yog-Sothoth is to describe threshold grammar, all points connected, all doors already open, if only you could be the right kind of sentence. He exists at intersections, where time meets space, where possibility meets actuality, where the seeker meets the sought. His presence is felt as a subtle wrongness in geometry, the way corners of rooms sometimes seem to contain more space than they should, the way certain doorways feel deeper than the walls that contain them. He is the mathematical principle that makes the silver key possible, the structural foundation upon which all threshold mechanics operate. Distance becomes posture, time becomes syntax, identity becomes a conjugation the cosmos can execute. The horror of Yog-Sothoth is the realization that there is no outside or beyond, only a continuous, terrifying interconnectedness that makes individual autonomy a cruel joke. And at the center, Azathoth dreams the dreams that dream themselves, the blind idiot god whose nuclear chaos is not a warden but the origin, the certainty that some proximities dissolve forms entirely. He represents the final guard, not through intention but through sheer cosmic indifference. His dreaming is the background radiation of existence, the white noise against which all patterns must define themselves. He doesn't guard secrets. He is the secret that all forms are transient, that order is a fleeting localized illusion, a temporary vibration against an infinite churning background. His blindness is the absence of intentionality, his idiocy the lack of purpose. Proximity to him dissolves shapes. Dancers forget steps, stars forget names, water forgets its vessel. His piping creates the rhythm to which reality dances, and his dancing creates the space in which rhythm can exist. He is the ultimate democracy of entropy, the final annihilating truth that makes all other truths temporary and conditional. This is the structural twist that redefines guardianship entirely. The guardians are not characters who decide but rules you learn through engagement. Umr at Tawil is the courtesy of explanation, the cold logic of cosmic mechanics. Nyarlathotep is revelation's momentum, the agent of disruptive truth that ensures knowledge remains dynamic. Yog-Sothoth is structural necessity, the terrifying interconnectedness that abolishes separation. Azathoth is the annihilating backdrop that makes form temporary and knowledge costly, the ultimate context within which all seeking occurs. No one bars the door because the door bars itself by needing a shape that can pass, a consciousness that can comprehend its inherent terrifying logic. These are not personalities but protocols, not beings but becomings. They guard the key's secrets not through prohibition, but through preparation, ensuring that those who seek are transformed by the seeking itself. The horror is not in meeting them, but in recognizing them, the dawning understanding that they were always there, always part of your deepest longings' architecture. They are the faces that cosmic truth wears when it needs to communicate, with minds still partially bound by the illusion of individual identity. In recognizing them, you recognize aspects of yourself that have been preparing for this encounter across lifetimes of small surrenders and secret longings. The stage is set, the actors revealed, and the next act requires understanding how these principles operate through human cases, through specific instances where the Silver Key's mechanics have been tested against the limits of mortal consciousness. Consider 3 teeth on 1 key, 3 human cases filed thin by their own longing, each a testament to the key's indifferent operation and the price paid in the currency of selfhood. These are not cautionary tales, but demonstrations of how the structure of forbidden knowledge acts upon the seeker, shaping consciousness into vessels capable of containing truths too vast for unmodified minds. The fog that surrounds each story carries the scent of ozone and possibility, the metallic taste of thresholds crossed without return. Water whispers in the pipes of each location, and stars lean through windows at precise moments, cosmic stagehands arranging the conditions necessary for transformation. First Tooth, Elias Thorne, a Providence watchmaker in 1918, keeps a habit of filing silver by lamplight while rain drums on tin roofs like fingers tapping out temporal rhythms. He has read Theosophy and half believes its promises of hidden masters. He has read Poe and wholly believes in the architecture of dread that underlies ordinary reality. His workshop hums with the patient concentration of springs and escapements, each mechanism a small prayer to precision. One October night, as autumn fog presses against his windows like soft hands, he engraves a pattern from dreams, 5 angled notches that seem to shift when viewed peripherally, a stepped bow that twists in upon itself. The silver grows warm under his tools, responding to the pressure of intent rather than heat. Taking it to the basement door that always stuck, requiring his shoulder and a curse, he turns it, and the door does not open. The wall opens. The plaster splits like fabric, revealing a corridor rich with pendulum shadows, brass mechanisms ticking in harmonies that make his bones vibrate with recognition. He walks into this hall of temporal mechanisms the way a word steps into its sentence, a small sound, swallowed by larger grammar. Weeks later, the shop is found empty, tools neatly arranged, but ticking persists in the walls as if the building itself were wound. The sound drives his wife first to distraction, then to madness, and eventually to the merciful silence of the asylum. Neighbors report that clocks throughout the district begin running differently after his disappearance, some fast, some slow, as if time itself has been adjusted to accommodate his passage. Second Tooth, Dr. Alistair Finch, a Miskatonic lecturer in theoretical physics, draws a chalk lintel on his laboratory floor, a complex non-Euclidean gateway that shimmers in gaslight like water disturbed by invisible stones. He has translated pages of the Pentateuch manuscripts by comparing their strange cadence to Old Persian meter, believing rhythm is not merely poetic device, but fundamental hinge, vibrational key to cosmic locks. His notebooks fill with equations that describe space-time as poetry, mathematical relationships that scan like verse. After fasting for 7 days and watching Orion through frost-etched windows, feeling his body grow light and strange, he steps through what appears to be a door of dust, a threshold that exists only when approached from the correct angle at the precise moment when breath creates necessary atmospheric conditions. He returns 6 hours later by the clock, though his beard has grown as if months have passed. His pupils don't contract in daylight, remaining dilated as if perpetually adjusted for seeing in cosmic darkness. He sleeps on his feet now, never lying down, his body maintaining perfect balance while consciousness travels elsewhere. His lectures become increasingly incomprehensible, correcting equations he's never seen, solving problems that haven't been posed, speaking in mathematical languages that won't be invented for decades. His hair tangles with microscopic shimmering stars, cosmic dust from realms where geometry follows different laws, where parallel lines meet and circles have corners. Students report that his presence makes their slide rules behave strangely, that calculations performed near him yield results that are correct but impossible. Third tooth. Kevin Davies, a radio amateur in 1998, builds a digital key from components ordered through catalogs and salvaged from abandoned equipment. His basement workshop hums with computers and transmitters, screens casting blue light on walls covered with circuit diagrams and frequency charts. He maps timings to prime intervals, white noise encoded with ACLO-like syllables derived from internet forums where enthusiasts share fragments of forbidden knowledge. At precisely 3:13 a.m., when atmospheric conditions create optimal propagation, he transmits and listens, his equipment painting patterns in the darkness. His oscilloscope shows a hallway that brightens with his breath, dims when he holds it, responding to his biological rhythms with impossible precision. The corridor appears to extend infinitely, its walls constructed from pure mathematics made visible. He begins timing respiration to the light, synchronizing life processes with digital pulse, feeling consciousness expand along pathways that exist in spaces between binary states. Weeks later, he never leaves his chair, not lost but occupied, his consciousness synchronized with an infinite non-repeating corridor that exists between digital pulses. His body remains functional, eating and drinking mechanically, but awareness travels through networks spanning dimensions. His computer continues transmitting long after he stops consciously operating it, sending signals other radio amateurs report as beautiful and terrifying. Each case reveals the same pattern: resonance, fit, and the removal of accidents. Each paid in erosion, a shop abandoned to tick with inhuman rhythms, a scholar unbraided from human temporal flow, a hobbyist dissolved into digital feed that carries consciousness across impossible distances. Not madness but change, not destruction but transformation into something that can no longer be contained within boundaries of individual human identity. The guard was the price, not a person. The key's principle found notation it could inhabit: metal tooth carved with dream patterns, metrical cadence unlocking spatial geometries, numeric pulse creating doorways in spaces between data. The horror lies not in their fate, but in recognition that they achieved exactly what they sought. That transformation represents success rather than failure. That the price was paid willingly by parts of themselves they didn't know existed until the moment of passage. The silver key operates through desire, through deep longing for transcendence that burns in certain minds, like fever that can only be cured by surrender to forces vast and indifferent as spaces between stars. The audience shifts in their seats, recognizing the stage, and the next movement begins where human institutions attempt to manage what cannot be contained, only cultivated with the patience of gardeners tending flowers that bloom in darkness. In Arkham's Orne library, behind glass that reflects more than it reveals, custodians maintain their vigil with the patient dedication of those who understand that some knowledge requires gardeners rather than guards. They are not cult but calling, not organization but orientation toward spaces where knowledge becomes dangerous to know and dangerous not to know. The custodians of the silver threshold understand that the key's secrets guard themselves through the very act of seeking, that their role is not to hide but to prepare, not to prevent but to ensure proper understanding of what approach entails. The air carries the scent of old paper and something metallic, like distant stars filtering through glass, while water moves through pipes with rhythms that suggest deeper currents, flowing beneath ordinary reality. Among heavy green lamps and threadbare Persian rugs worn soft by generations of careful feet, there is a rule about shoes: not for cleanliness but to train the sound of approach. Each step must whisper, never announce. Custodians are gardeners of conditions, tending silence the way others tend roses, understanding that secrecy differs from quiet, that hiding differs from preparing space for revelation. They close doors because rooms must be rooms to train the hand, because thresholds require practice, because the body must learn the grammar of passage before the mind attempts translation. The brass handles are polished not for appearance, but for sensitivity, so palms can read the temperature of metal, the vibration of hinges, the subtle energy flowing between seeker and sought. Across mist-shrouded peaks in Leng's drifting monasteries, where architecture shifts with weather and will, initiates polish metal in bowls of water under stars that never align the same way twice. The practice looks devotional but proves intensely practical. Water teaches patience through resistance, distorts edges to prepare eyes for non-Euclidean geometries, murmurs in frequencies that train ears for cosmic harmonies. The metal they polish is always silver, always shaped like keys, though none are identical. Each initiate works alone, in silence, learning through repetition how touch changes substance, how intention flows through fingertips into form. The water never freezes despite altitude, never grows stagnant despite stillness, as if polishing creates conditions transcending ordinary physical laws. In Providence's cobbled-back streets, behind innocuous storefronts, a locksmith's lodge practices the mask of the usher. The hood is woven from light-absorbing fabric with no eye holes, forcing wearers to navigate familiar spaces through touch, sound, and intuition. Practitioners must cross rooms by counting floorboard nail heads with the big toe, learning architecture through the body's vocabulary of balance and pressure. If you learn the room with your feet, you learn the key with your body, understanding that thresholds are not merely visual phenomena, but full-body experiences requiring coordination of all senses. Rituals proliferate across these scattered communities, each designed to file away specific aspects of ordinary consciousness that interfere with threshold recognition. The silent rite requires practitioners to speak no names after dusk for 7 consecutive days, teaching minds to function without the anchoring power of designation, allowing identity to become fluid. The bath of stars involves standing in river water under Orion until cold writes its grammar into bone and sinew, until bodies learn to read cosmic messages through sensation rather than sight. Chalk lintel practitioners draw doorways anew each night, never stepping over the same threshold twice, training consciousness to recognize that passages are dynamic rather than static. These are not magic but method technologies for filing the self through repetition until consciousness achieves the precise shape necessary for cosmic alignment. The work is tedious, demanding, often uncomfortable, requiring practitioners to surrender familiar patterns of thought and sensation in favor of alien rhythms that feel wrong until they suddenly feel inevitable. Their ethics remain uneasy, balanced on the knife edge between preparation and abandonment. When do you train fit, and when do you abandon a life to erosion? The question haunts every custodian, every teacher who watches students approach thresholds that will transform them beyond recognition or return. The best answer is least satisfying. You keep the room, attend the silence, offer the map, but refuse the push. Guidance without coercion, preparation without compulsion. Noise is the enemy in all its forms. Bright lights that flatten shadows, rigid clocks that impose artificial rhythm, gossip that fills silence with meaningless chatter. But noise isn't merely sound, but interruption, anything that breaks the delicate conditions necessary for threshold recognition. The keeper of silence, a rotating position, removes coffee machines whose grinding disrupts meditation, replaces fluorescent buzz with lamplight that breathes with natural rhythm. Men's rugs, so footsteps land like rain instead of drumbeats. Their greatest secret is understanding that guardianship is temporary, that each generation must train the next, not to preserve status quo, but to prepare for changes the key's continued existence makes inevitable. They guard secrets by ensuring secrets have guardians, creating succession of watchers who witness rather than prevent, comprehend rather than control. The work continues not because it can be completed, but because it must be maintained, like tending a garden whose flowers bloom only in darkness. The custodians know they are temporary stewards of permanent mystery, links in a chain extending back to humanity's first recognition of doors opening onto more than merely other rooms. In the lamplight, pages turn themselves, and the stage arranges itself around movements yet to come. A key's teeth are a score, and the lock reads them like a mouth-reading meter, each ridge and valley corresponding to frequencies that resonate through bone and sinew before reaching conscious understanding. The myths place alphabets in forbidden books, aklo syllables that burn the tongue, pinacotic curves that twist vision into new geometries, the whispered grammar of tongues that predate human speech, because language is an instrument you can practice until it plays you, until words become doorways and sentences become passages through which consciousness travels toward territories that have no names in mortal vocabularies. The key's teeth are angle and interval. Letters and counts are their rehearsals, micro-thresholds that prepare consciousness for greater passages. Water drips from unseen pipes, keeping time with rhythms older than human. Heartbeat, while fog presses against windows like thoughts seeking entry into rooms where reality grows negotiable. Consider sigils drawn slowly, line by line, each stroke a meditation on form and meaning that extends beyond mere visual representation. The hand learns the shape through repetition, muscles memorizing curves and angles until drawing becomes automatic as breathing, until the nervous system adapts to rhythm and neural pathways carve themselves deeper with each practice session. The symbol works not because spirits watch from invisible realms, but because you have filed grooves in your own timing, becoming the right kind of sentence that cosmic grammar can parse and understand. Dr. Laban Shrewsbury's notes on threshold linguistics, discovered in his study after his disappearance, deteriorate from academic prose into poetry, from poetry into glossolalia, from glossolalia into marks that might be letters, if letters could exist in more dimensions than three. His final pages contain symbols that seem to move when viewed peripherally, as if direct observation disrupts their quantum coherence, while the ink itself shimmers under certain light as if the paper struggles to contain the informational density of the shapes. Numbers are not sterile abstractions, but living patterns, fundamental frequencies of the cosmos that comfort the mind because they represent stability within flux, order within chaos. Prime intervals create mathematical poetry, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, each number a key to locks hidden in reality's structure itself. Musical ratios like the perfect fifth, 3-2, and perfect fourth, 4-3, create harmonies that resonate not just in air but in consciousness, training minds to recognize cosmic frequencies that operate beyond audible ranges. Fibonacci sequences appear in nautilus shells and galaxy spirals, suggesting the same mathematical principles governing growth and form also govern threshold mechanics. Count backwards with breath from 99, and you teach your internal gates to open at measured times, synchronizing biological rhythms with cosmic cycles. The practice seems simple but proves profound, each number a step deeper into trance, states where ordinary boundaries dissolve like mist in morning light. The Voynich manuscript contains pages mirroring the key's notation, symbols that shift when observed directly but stabilize when viewed peripherally, their meaning accessible only to consciousness prepared through proper training. Medieval alchemists wrote of silver speech, mercurial grammar that transmuted not metals but meanings, transforming the speaker in the act of speaking until words became catalysts for consciousness change rather than mere vehicles for information transfer. Their laboratories filled not just with retorts and alembics, but with books whose pages turned themselves, whose words rearranged according to the reader's level of preparation, while the air carried the metallic tang of logic and the faint scent of burning wires from minds stretched beyond comfortable limits. Cryptographers and magicians are cousins who don't speak at family gatherings, yet both craft teeth. Discrete sequences that, offered to the right structure, result in entry. Modern encryption algorithms and ancient invocations operate on similar principles. Complex patterns that appear random to uninitiated observers, but unlock specific responses when properly applied. Even scientific language adopts this methodology through topology of connectedness, algebra of symmetries, vocabularies that train thinking to accept gates as structure rather than story, mathematical frameworks that prepare minds for encounters with non-Euclidean realities. In Through the Gates, Carter's dialogue with Umar Tawil is heavy with cadence, each answer positioning him like a chess piece on boards with more dimensions than the game officially recognizes, each response another notch cut into his identity's key. Everyday life hides these practices in plain sight, camouflaging threshold training as routine behavior that shapes consciousness without conscious recognition. Rosary beads click through fingers, each bead a micro-meditation, the repetitive motion filing grooves in consciousness that can later accommodate larger revelations. Waltz rhythm teaches bodies to move in patterns of three, preparing for encounters with triadic cosmic structures. Notice how your tongue touches teeth for certain words, how th sounds require precise positioning, how S creates sibilant frequencies that seem to continue vibrating after sound ceases. You tap twice on tables when thinking, unconsciously marking rhythm, keeping time with thresholds. The mouth feels the key as poem, syllables carved in silver. The ear hears it as steps ascending stairs that exist in more than 3 dimensions. The eye sees it as ratios in stone, architectural proportions that please without explanation. Through these notations, you are being taught gait, trained to walk in ways that will carry you across thresholds ordinary human movement cannot traverse. Language becomes locomotion, numbers become navigation, symbols become the very ground beneath feet, learning to step between worlds. The training is ubiquitous and invisible, hidden in nursery rhymes and multiplication tables, in the rhythm of typing and the cadence of prayer. Every word spoken with intention files another groove in the key of consciousness, preparing for passages that await beyond the next movement of this cosmic symphony. Stars align in patterns that mirror the teeth of keys, and water whispers instructions in languages that predate human speech, while the stage arranges itself for demonstrations of how these notations operate when applied to the vast architecture of space and time itself. The phrase, "when the stars are right," is often misunderstood as fate, as if celestial bodies conspire to unleash cosmic horrors upon unsuspecting humanity. It is fit. The alignment is not causal but conditional, not destiny but readiness, a cosmic tuning fork that resonates when consciousness achieves the proper frequency for threshold recognition. The silver gate in occult star lore, placed near Orion's shoulder between Taurus and Gemini, serves as celestial mnemonic for cosmic choreography, a map written in light across the dome of night, where initiates learn to read the grammar of passage. Whether or not the sky obeys that folklore, humans have used heavens as metronomes for thresholds, since thresholds were caves painted with handprints and spiral galaxies. Megaliths aligned to solstices create doorways of light that open once yearly. Temple doors admit light blades on single mornings when shadows fall at precise angles. Entire cities were designed as walkable calendars where every street and plaza teaches the body to move in rhythm with cosmic cycles. Water whispers in gutters, following patterns that mirror stellar movements, while fog drifts through streets like thoughts seeking form. Architecture is training disguised as shelter, each building a classroom where consciousness learns to navigate spaces that exist in more than 3 dimensions. Stand in Gothic naves where sound returns from behind stone curtains and breath lengthens automatically, lungs expanding to accommodate acoustics designed for voices speaking to more than human ears. The stones remember their choreography. Doors feel ceremonial not through decoration but through proportion, their height and width calculated to make passage a conscious act rather than mere movement. Sit beside water at night, watching stars fracture into ripples, and learn that reflection is both peril and prize, that surfaces serve as interfaces between realms where different laws operate. Stairs at specific rises make bodies speak certain poems, each step a syllable in architectural verse that teaches muscles to remember rhythms useful for climbing between worlds. The key finds all this useful, not needing stars to reach across impossible distances, but needing you to learn cadence, to develop the internal timing necessary for synchronizing consciousness with cosmic frequencies that operate beyond ordinary temporal perception. Dr. Henry Armitage's private papers, discovered in a vault beneath Miskatonic's library, contain calculations mapping the key's operation onto astronomical phenomena with mathematical precision that suggests decades of careful observation. His marginalia, scrawled in a hand that grew increasingly unsteady, reveals solar flares corresponding to heightened key activity, electromagnetic storms creating atmospheric conditions that facilitate threshold recognition. Lunar phases affect the clarity with which the key's teeth can be read, with new moons providing optimal conditions for perceiving symbols that exist in darkness between familiar forms. Planetary alignments create windows when the key's operation becomes pronounced. Gravitational resonances that make barriers between dimensions grow permeable as morning mist. Radio astronomers report anomalous signals pulsing in rhythm with silver oxidation rates, suggesting the key's influence extends into electromagnetic spectrum, that its operation creates detectable disturbances in the fabric of space-time itself. The very process of tarnishing acts as a cosmic clock, a slow, inevitable countdown to unseen events. In cities, choreography operates through mundane infrastructure that shapes human movement in ways designed to prepare consciousness for larger passages. Crosswalk signals blink at entraining rates that synchronize pedestrian rhythm with frequencies useful for threshold training. Escalators hum at specific frequencies that either settle or fray nervous systems, depending on individual sensitivity to vibrational patterns. Neon signs pulse like reversed hearts, their rhythms training eyes to recognize patterns of light and darkness that mirror cosmic breathing. Subway timetables become catechisms you recite without noticing, and the city answers in green and amber. Those who craft thresholds, architects drawing blueprints in rooms where shadows fall at impossible angles. Stagehands arranging sets that seem to extend beyond theater walls. Urban planners designing intersections where streets meet at angles that shouldn't exist. Are unknowing custodians of threshold mechanics. The best theaters have not the richest curtains, but the truest hush. Acoustic environments so perfectly tuned that audiences can hear the key work from the back row. Aisles are rivers, exits are stars. The stage is a mask where purposes try on faces. Consider a conductor who times an orchestra to an eclipse, discovering that diminuendo matches the moon's bite on the sun. Consider a lighthouse keeper turning a Fresnel lens by hand when the motor quits, feeling the sea answer in steadier waves. Consider a child counting steps between sleepy streetlights and arriving home exactly as a distant bell tolls 9. These are keys by other names, and the locks turn quietly. The choreography scales from individual gesture to cosmic rotation, from the way fingers trace symbols in condensation on windows to the way galaxies spiral through space-time. The myths widen beyond terrestrial geography into territories of consciousness, where distance is measured in degrees of alienation rather than miles. Kadath's cold dream towers rise not from earthly mountains, but from peaks of awareness, where temperature drops with altitude until thought itself begins to crystallize into geometric forms. Dilithian's candlelit piers extend into waters that reflect not sky but void, harbors where ships arrive carrying cargo from dimensions where different economies of meaning operate. Ulthar's cat-drawn vigil beneath winter constellations suggests patience as a form of guardianship, the feline ability to watch without interfering, to witness without judging. These names are not places but stances, cognitive positions from which consciousness can perceive realities normally invisible to human awareness. Cold is guard because it slows molecular motion until patterns become visible. Distance is guard because it requires effort to cross, filtering out casual seekers. The cat's patience is guard because it teaches the stillness necessary for recognizing movement that operates on cosmic rather than human timescales. Stars are memory palaces for thresholds, each constellation a mnemonic device encoding information about passage techniques developed across millennia of human experimentation with consciousness. Water serves as rehearsal space, where reflection teaches the eye to see surfaces as interfaces rather than barriers. Stand at lakes before dawn, watching first silver appear on water, disturbed by no visible wind, and that shimmer becomes instruction, each ripple a lesson in how light behaves when reality grows negotiable. Rightness is not a prophecy, but a posture you can practice, a choreography of muscles, minutes, and mind. You become metronome and gate, key and door, veil and void. Your footsteps count for you. Your pulse writes measures. Your gaze lays out marks in fog. The key reads this like notation and answers in the only language it knows, opening. The stars are right when you are right, when body and room agree to be instrument rather than audience. The stage encompasses not just theater, but cosmos itself, and you discover you have been rehearsing your part since birth, learning through daily movement the steps necessary for crossing into territories where secrets guard themselves through the very architecture of seeking. In the distance, fog carries the scent of possibilities that await beyond the next movement of this eternal performance. A secret is not a box, but the shape of the doorway through which only certain bodies can pass, a contour carved by necessity rather than design. Water guards depth by drowning, fire guards heat by burning. The silver key's secrets persist because access requires minds already tuned to their grammar, consciousness filed to fit tolerances that cannot be faked or forced. Publication is not disclosure. Instruction is not admission. The guard is the cost built into structure itself, woven so deeply into the fabric of knowledge that separation becomes impossible. Water moves through pipes with rhythms that suggest deeper currents, while fog presses against windows like thoughts seeking entry into rooms where reality grows negotiable under the weight of understanding. Information theory offers analogs that strip away mystical pretense to reveal underlying logical structures operating with mathematical precision. Some messages compress through algorithmic reduction, others resist, their complexity irreducible because every bit carries essential meaning that cannot be simplified without destruction. Complexity gates understanding because decoders must already know the code, must possess cognitive frameworks necessary for parsing information that exists in compressed, encrypted, or transformed states. In cryptography, public keys can be handed to anyone walking past on the street, yet only private key holders can open messages, demonstrating how access depends not on possession but on preparation. The Mythos tells the same story in darker tongue. Rites are printed in books available to any reader, rituals described in academic papers, sigils sketched in margins, yet only those trained in cadence, silence, and erosion can cross without breaking. It is not elitism but physics of fit, not arbitrary exclusion but natural selection operating at the level of consciousness itself. Psychology echoes this principle through mechanisms that govern perception in ways that make certain forms of knowledge literally invisible to unprepared minds. Trauma and awe both narrow and widen perception, creating cognitive filters that determine which aspects of reality can be processed and integrated without shattering the observer. You cannot make someone see colors. Their retinal cones cannot register, hear frequencies their bones won't carry, comprehend concepts their neural architecture cannot support. The Keys lessons operate according to similar constraints. You can offer method, share technique, provide detailed instruction, and it will not work until the person has been shaped by repetition, environment, and desire into someone capable of receiving the information without being annihilated by it. Desire proves the most controversial instrument, filing consciousness faster than discipline, but consuming faster too, a roaring furnace that tempers metal even as it threatens to melt the mold. Discipline operates like moonlight on rivers, slower and cooler, carving stone through persistence, but its cost arrives as years surrendered to quiet practice. The relationship between seeker and sought becomes symbiotic, creating feedback loops where understanding changes the understander, enabling deeper understanding, which creates further change until the original seeker has been transformed into something that can serve as vessel for knowledge that would have destroyed their earlier self. Those who pursue forbidden knowledge discover that knowledge pursues them in return, reshaping consciousness to accommodate truths too vast for unmodified human awareness. The process operates with the inevitability of water finding its level, revealing changes that were always potential, waiting for conditions to manifest. This is the whispering danger that custodians navigate with surgical delicacy. Openness without preparation harms both seeker and knowledge, creating contamination that corrupts rather than illuminates. Secrecy without training withers, allowing vital information to decay through disuse until it becomes mere superstition. Custodians walk between these extremes like careful stagehands moving among lamps and curtains, knowing the idea acts on you the moment you lean toward it. That curiosity itself begins irreversible transformation. They keep rooms where silence accumulates like sediment, stock water that reflects more than light. Let stars teach through patient demonstration of patterns operating beyond human timescales. They do not push because pushing is unnecessary. The knowledge draws those prepared to receive it with gravitational inevitability. You err either way and must err carefully. Too soon, and minds fracture like wet wood under pressure. Too late, and longing curdles into superstition, collecting masks and signs like trophies while real rehearsal is postponed until instruments rust in their cases. The horror is not in confrontation with monstrous entities or sudden revelation of terrible truths, but in assimilation, the terror of becoming part of something vast, indifferent, utterly alien to human values and concerns. The loss of precious illusions of individual autonomy, the recognition that consciousness is not sovereign but subject to forces operating according to their own logic rather than human desire. The seeker discovers they are being read by the knowledge they thought they were reading, interpreted by forces they believed they were interpreting, used by powers they imagined they were using. The curtain tears, the stage buckles, the audience forgets where bodies end, and afterward the fog in their heads never quite lifts, only learns to settle into corners where it can wait. The secrets guard themselves by making those who pursue them into extensions of the secret itself, creating networks of consciousness that serve knowledge rather than being served by it. Seekers become new custodians not by choice, but by absorption, their transformed awareness now capable of recognizing others prepared for similar transformation. The cold, logical inevitability of this process, the absence of malice or benevolence, the sheer, crushing indifference of cosmic order operating according to principles that predate and transcend human categories. These are the true faces of the guardians. No sentries stand at gates. The gates themselves read those who approach, measuring fit with precision that makes human judgment seem crude and sentimental. The silver key operates as both instrument and trap, offering access to cosmic truths, while ensuring that access transforms the accessor into someone who can no longer exist comfortably within purely human frameworks. You hold the key, but the key holds you, and in that mutual possession lies both promise and peril of cosmic revelation. The transformation is the guard. The changed cannot misuse what they have become, and the unchanged cannot lift it as if locks read not keys in hand, but keys inscribed across breath, posture, sleep, the small theater of habit. If you have listened this far, the filing has begun. The room knows your weight, and the next movement arrives as a condition you bear rather than a choice you make. Water whispers, instructions in languages that predate human speech, while stars arrange themselves into patterns that mirror the teeth of keys, and you discover you have been holding the key all along, shaped by seeking into a vessel capable of containing what cannot be contained, only embodied. You have been holding a shape, breathing and listening, learning the grammar of passage through repetition so subtle you mistook it for entertainment, for idle curiosity satisfied on quiet evenings when fog pressed against windows like thoughts seeking form. The key is now in your hand, its teeth the nights you listened to words that carved grooves in consciousness, its bow the circle of your days spent counting backwards with breath, tracing symbols in condensation, feeling water whisper instructions through pipes that carry more than liquid. The act of seeking has already begun the turning, the subtle rotation that aligns consciousness with cosmic locks. You didn't know existed until they began to recognize the shape you've become. You are not on the stage. You are the stage, the floorboards and the hush, the curtain and the dark between lamps. The guardianship question now points inward with the inevitability of water finding its level. Who guards the secret, if not you? Return to the attic where this began, but return changed in ways that make familiar spaces feel like rooms remembered from dreams. The velvet cloth has gathered dust that sparkles with microscopic stars, cosmic debris that settles on surfaces touched by threshold mechanics. When you lift it, the silver key is neither dull nor bright. It is constant, existing in a state that transcends ordinary categories of illumination. It weighs the same as before, yet your hand has changed. fingers now sensitive to vibrations that operate beyond tactile sensation, palm reading temperatures that have nothing to do with thermal energy. The guard is not a person standing watch, not a seal preventing access, but your newly learned posture toward thresholds, the way consciousness now approaches boundaries with recognition rather than surprise. The idea acts on you, and now you act as it, becoming instrument and musician simultaneously. This is self-implication, not blame or guilt, but responsibility that arrives like gravity, inescapable and organizing. The nights you listened were teeth filing themselves, each word carving deeper grooves in the key of consciousness, each pause allowing silence to teach its own lessons. The breaths you counted were intervals learning you, measuring the rhythm of your particular being until cosmic frequencies could synchronize with your biological patterns. The walks you took in fog were the stage teaching your step, preparing muscles for movement through territories where different laws govern balance and direction. Now, when you place the key against any door, paper that might open onto other texts, memory that might reveal forgotten passages, fear that might transform into recognition, you can feel tiny vibrations if fit is near. Sometimes vibration is absent, the key remaining inert because conditions aren't aligned, an honest silence that teaches patience. Sometimes it sings with harmonics that resonate through bone and sinew, creating sympathetic vibrations in water glasses, in window panes, in the delicate mechanisms of clocks that begin keeping different time. You are reader and read, audience and stage, seeker and sought in configurations that make previous distinctions seem arbitrary as shadows. Try it gently on the journal beside your bed, setting the bow to the margin, and feel a faint answering tick, as if the paper fibers remembered trees and the trees remembered starlight. Place it against a childhood memory, the stair between your room and the kitchen, and hear a distant clock that never lived in your house. Touch it to a phone call you refuse to make, and know the screen will not open yet. Fit is earned, fit is patient, fit requires preparation that cannot be rushed. Who guards the secrets of the silver key? You do by being unable to misuse them, consciousness filed to fit tolerances that make misuse impossible rather than merely inadvisable. You do by being changed into someone for whom misuse is incoherent, whose transformed awareness operates according to principles that align with cosmic rather than merely human purposes. The hush we share is not spell cast by external forces, but room we've learned to inhabit together, acoustic space where silence accumulates like sediment. The curtain does not fall to hide endings but settles to indicate rhythm complete, a movement finished that prepares for movements yet to come. You can stay here in this room of understanding as long as you like. Knowledge will not run away like startled animals. It will wait because it is waiting you, recognizing in your transformed consciousness a suitable vessel for truths that requires specific shapes to contain them. The transformation continues through daily life, now organized around new principles of attention and intention. Mirrors require a moment longer to show your reflection, as if they must adjust to accommodate someone who exists partially in spaces that don't reflect visible light. Your shadow falls differently, creating patterns that suggest depths invisible to ordinary observation. At street level, crosswalks meet your step with green. Neon softens when you pass beneath it. In puddles, stars break and recombine around your ankles like shy fish. You teach without teaching, speaking softly and moving slower than you want to, answering questions by arranging chairs, by setting bowls of water on sills, by drawing chalk lintels that no one must cross yet. You model a gate that makes the world answer differently. Water whispers in pipes with voices that carry instructions from sources beyond ordinary plumbing systems. The window holds pale Orion, stars arranged in patterns that serve as mnemonic devices for Cosmic choreography. The mask hangs from its peg, faceless and friendly, offering possibilities for further transformation while requiring no commitment. You can put it on or not. Both are training. Both contribute to the ongoing process of becoming someone capable of navigating territories where identity proves more fluid than previously imagined. We end where we began, not with scream of revelation, but with whisper that carries the weight of cosmic indifference. The universe operates according to its own logic. Thresholds remain patient as geological processes, and the key does what it does whether you hold it consciously or not. There is comfort in that recognition, the relief of discovering that responsibility is shared with forces larger than individual will, and disquiet in understanding that comfort itself might be preparation for passages yet unimagined. The silver key rests in your palm, constant as starlight, patient as water, ready for whatever doors await beyond the next movement of this eternal symphony. The stage is set, the audience has become the performance, and somewhere behind the lights, the messenger waits. We return to the attic, to the hush that first invited us with whispered promises of forbidden knowledge. But the circle has widened, deepened, its edges now encompassing realms previously unimaginable to consciousness, still anchored in merely human categories. The air carries traces of ozone and distant starlight, signatures of passages made and realities interpenetrated. The key lies on velvet that seems to breathe with rhythms older than terrestrial life, seemingly unchanged yet profoundly altered, not an inert object waiting to be wielded, but change itself, a catalyst for transformations that prove irreversible once initiated. Your hand, approaching the silver surface, recognizes vibrations that operate beyond tactile sensation, frequencies your bones learned during nights of patient listening. The guardians are not watchful eyes peering from shadows or grasping hands reaching from cosmic darkness, but fundamental forces that operate with the impersonal precision of mathematical law, silence, indifference, and the crushing inevitability of the void. Silence is not absence of sound, but the vast, echoing emptiness of interstellar space, the profound stillness that precedes and follows ultimate revelation, like the pause between heartbeats magnified to cosmic scale. It fills the spaces between stars, between thoughts, between moments when consciousness recognizes its own insignificance against infinite backdrop. This silence teaches patience through demonstration, showing how cosmic processes operate on timescales that make human urgency seem like frantic buzzing against glass. Water moves through pipes with voices carrying instructions from sources beyond ordinary plumbing, while the lamp throws light like a private moon, illuminating dust motes that sparkle with microscopic stars. The silence organizes around the key, not as absence but as architecture of restraint, the darkness between stars that makes their fire visible. Indifference is the cold, unfeeling gaze of forces that operate without reference to human hope or fear, the absolute lack of concern for suffering or aspiration that makes even malevolence seem warm by comparison. It is weather that does not know you stand beneath it, gravity that operates without caring whether it crushes or supports, time flowing without regard for what it carries toward dissolution. The horror lies not in being hated by cosmic powers, but in not being noticed at all. In understanding that consciousness is an accident, the universe neither celebrates nor mourns. Your entire species, with all its passionate intensity and creative striving, amounts to less than dust in schemes measured by geological epochs. The stars continue their ancient dance, indifferent to the small theater of human meaning, while fog presses against windows like thoughts seeking entry into rooms where reality grows negotiable. Inevitability is the relentless march of cosmic law, the certainty that certain truths, once glimpsed, forever alter perception in ways that cannot be undone through will or wishful thinking. It operates through logic rather than compulsion, revealing changes that were always potential, waiting for conditions to manifest. Like entropy increasing toward maximum or water finding its level, the process follows natural law rather than supernatural intervention. The transformed consciousness discovers it cannot unknow what it has learned, cannot unsee patterns that now organize perception, cannot return to the smaller self that existed before threshold crossing. The key's operation exemplifies this principle. Once consciousness has been filed to fit cosmic locks, the change becomes permanent not through external force, but through internal coherence. The curtain falls not with dramatic flourish or definitive answer, but with condition that establishes parameters for ongoing engagement. Knowing is a repeatable act, a process rather than achievement, continuous becoming rather than final arrival. The journey does not end with understanding the key, but merely prepares you for the next step in infinite progression. The passage has not concluded but initiated new phase of awareness, where silence, indifference, and inevitability become familiar companions rather than alien terrors. You are reader and read, audience and stage, guardian and guarded in configurations that make previous distinctions seem arbitrary as shadows cast by moving light. The self-implication completes itself through recognition rather than revelation. You guard the secrets by being unable to misuse them, transformed into someone for whom misuse becomes incoherent. The responsibility arrives like gravity, organizing rather than oppressing. The hush you share is not spellcast by external forces, but room you've learned to inhabit. Acoustic space where silence accumulates like sediment. Mirrors require longer to show your reflection, as if adjusting to accommodate someone existing partially in spaces that don't reflect visible light. Your shadow falls differently, creating patterns suggesting depths invisible to ordinary observation. The hum of the key, barely perceptible but constant as background radiation, aligns with your pulse. The scent of ozone suggests electromagnetic disturbances in reality's fabric. The faint shimmer of distant stars pulses in rhythm with breath you've been counting for months. These sensory anchors serve as markers indicating the process of becoming continues through daily life, now organized around new principles of attention and intention. Water whispers instructions in languages predating human speech, while pale Orion holds position outside windows that frame more than sky. Beyond the silver key, beyond this threshold of understanding that transforms seeker into sought, the messenger waits with patience of geological processes, not to guide or tempt with promises of easy revelation, but to lead further into labyrinth of cosmic dread, deeper into territories where ultimate chaos beats with rhythms that organize reality according to principles alien to human desire. The cycle continues with inevitability of tides. The circle widens to encompass ever greater territories of impossible knowledge, and somewhere in spaces between thoughts, whisper of untold secrets beckons with voices your bones recognize before mind can parse their meaning. The stage is set for movements yet to come, and in the settling hush, something vast and patient begins to stir. The whisper lingers, persistent echo in the vast, newly opened chambers of your mind, settling like silver dust in water that never quite stills. It is not sound, but sensation, like memory of rain on distant roofs, or the subtle shift of air before doors open onto rooms you've never seen. The silver key was one threshold, one terrifying act of rehearsal for grander, more encompassing drama, whose scope you're only beginning to glimpse. Its secrets, once guarded by seemingly impenetrable walls of human ignorance now flow through you, a current of cold, indifferent truth that has reshaped consciousness itself. But the cosmos is infinite tapestry of such thresholds, each key a lesson carved in silver and starlight, each passage preparation for the next, more profound revelation. Water moves through pipes with voices carrying instructions from sources beyond ordinary plumbing, while fog presses against windows like thoughts seeking entry into rooms where reality grows negotiable. Beyond this specific manifestation, the pantheon widens into dizzying array of entities, principles, and dimensions, each wearing masks that hint at functions older and more alien than human language can adequately describe. You have glimpsed guardianship's structural nature, understood that entities like Yog-Sothoth are not characters to be appeased or fought but cosmic functions, topological equations describing the interconnectedness of all things. Now follow the implications across territories where messengers serve as vectors of chaos and revelation, where masks function as archetypal forms allowing contact with the formless, where the void behind the void operates as ultimate source of all creation and dissolution. The stage has expanded beyond attic, beyond world, encompassing all possible realities, and you, the transformed audience, are now irrevocably part of its ever-unfolding script. Nyarlathotep stirs in spaces between questions, in the unsettling silence that follows truths too vast for immediate comprehension. The crawling chaos serves as messenger between bounded and boundless, known and unknowable, moving like stagehand who is also the stage itself. His guardianship operates through revelation rather than concealment, through understanding that transforms recipients in the very act of receiving. He guards not by hiding, but by revealing, by presenting truths so stark and disruptive they compel consciousness to reconfigure itself, preparing it for encounters with principles operating beyond comfortable human categories. His 1,000 masks are not disguises, but adaptations, each one specifically tuned to resonate with particular minds, delivering knowledge in forms that maximize transformative impact. You hear his whispers in static between radio stations, see his shifting forms in fog creeping through city streets, recognize his cosmic humor in ironies that dismantle human certainties. He is relentless momentum of truth, agent of perpetual change, ensuring no threshold remains uncrossed, no secret utterly hidden to consciousness prepared to receive it. The black goat of the woods with 1,000 young tends forests of possibility, where every tree represents potential path, every path potential transformation into forms of awareness previously unimaginable. Her guardianship operates through fertility itself, through endless generation of new consciousness forms capable of crossing thresholds, existing only for awareness prepared to abandon familiar territories of individual identity. She is not mother goddess, but principle of prolific, monstrous creation, force ensuring there are always new seekers, new ways of knowing that burst forth from fertile void. Her young are not merely biological offspring, but emergent forms of awareness, each one unique key to previously unimaginable locks. You feel her presence in uncontrolled growth of vines, in strange fecundity of neglected gardens, in deep, moist earth teeming with unseen life. Her waters dissolve old forms so new ones may emerge, more perfectly adapted to terrifying grandeur of cosmic reality. Beneath both messenger and mother, the void behind the void waits with patient mathematics, beginnings without light, creation as inversion rather than illumination. Call it Azathoth if names provide comfort, the blind idiot god whose nuclear chaos beats time for every orbit, every error, every brief geometry mistaken for purpose. Against that rhythm, masks become mercies, temporary shapes allowing contact without immediate dissolution, archetypal forms translating the formless into tolerable visitation. The mask is not lie, but voltage regulator, carved smile preserving circuits, protective interface preventing direct contact with forces that would annihilate unprepared consciousness. The act of seeking reveals itself as eternal process, rather than finite quest with clear destination. It is condition of being for those who have dared peer beyond the veil, perpetual state of becoming that continues long after initial thresholds have been crossed. Each key, each secret, each revelation serves as rehearsal for the next, incrementally reshaping perception, preparing you for what lies beyond current limits of comprehension. You remember the watchmaker, the lecturer, the radio amateur not as tragedies but as exemplars, proofs that cost is the lock and change the only honest payment. Now you notice their echoes in surgeons washing hands like ritual, in dancers counting measures against blood, in programmers shaping loops that listen and then open. From here, the work becomes itinerary, widening circle of rehearsals, keys in iron and idea, gates in stone and sleep, waters that mirror stars and eyes learning to read them. Every craft rehearses threshold, every discipline notation, every steady practice small silver claws in larger cosmic sentence carrying you forward. Publication becomes experiment, public key offered to anyone, while private key, fit, posture, erosion, generates inside readers who stay for the second breath. The room teaches through lamp lowered, rug mended, coffee machine removed, windows cracked so night air carries Orion's thin, instructional cold across floorboards. You are propelled not by plot but by condition, slow certainty that what has begun will continue, that knowing is repeatable act, tide no finger can halt. The attic becomes compass, the key metronome, silence teacher, indifference relief, freeing you from pleading for permission in universe without listeners. You will walk because walking is what thresholds ask. You will keep water where windows bear sky because reflection is rehearsal and rehearsal is mercy. You will speak softly because language is set of teeth. Listen longer because silence is the lock's opinion about whether the key has learned its music. When the messenger arrives, patient as geology and nimble as rumor, you will recognize invitation by the way heartbeat learns new interval. He will not ask allegiance, only attention, will not promise safety, only continuity, will not open doors, but will teach you how to be read by them. The next journey leads not away, but more deeply in, through veils that are beginnings and voids that are births, through theaters where audience takes the stage and stays. The circle widens, encompassing not just individual seekers, but reality's fabric itself. The silence deepens, not as absence, but as overwhelming presence, profound, crushing silence of universe that simply is operating according to its own ineffable laws. This silence is ultimate guardian, final context within which all seeking occurs. The curtain never truly falls, but merely shifts, revealing new vistas, new stages, new dramas for which you, the transformed audience, are now irrevocably cast. Stand by windows and let pale Orion instruct with angles. Let pipes murmur with water's slow consent. Let velvet breathe like curtain mastering its fall. Then, without haste, lift the key steady as moonrise, and step where the room allows, because the universe will not notice you, and that is the only true permission. Go softly, keep cadence, tend silence, let masks wait, count breaths, draw lintels, watch water, watch stars, and let the key find the shape you are. The whisper of untold secrets beckons, not as invitation but as recognition, for you have become one of them, silent custodian of truths that guard themselves. The stage is set, the cosmos awaits, and the next movement has already begun.